Hello, sweet friends, and welcome. This is Gina, and you are at the Rebookery channel right now. It has been a very long time since I have done a video, and I will be honest, I've just been creating for me. Like, I have not been motivated to do anything other than just create art for me. And I know that sounds selfish, but oh my gosh, I needed it so bad. So I'm getting caught up, and I'm actually making some journals and stuff for my shop. So I thought this would be a good time to shoot a video and let you guys know what's going on in my world. So right now I'm working in this little video, or this little journal that you see me working in is my it's my gratitude journal, and it's kind of like a every day I put something in it, and I will link the video below where I show you when I introduce this journal. But I am so proud of myself because I've been keeping up with it, and I absolutely love this journal. I love the size of it. I love everything about it. So much so that I'm actually making some for my shop. So I have 6 of those that I'm going to be putting in my shop sometime in the next week or so, and I'll do a video on them. But I wanted to put in my thankfulness or my gratitude for yesterday, because I didn't do it before I went to bed last night. And so my gratitude was for ebb and flow. I love that term as a science teacher. I love that term. But for me, art-wise, ebb and flow happens all the time. And that's exactly what I've been doing. My journal making and my Etsy shop has been ebbing, and my art, my own creativity, my personal journals have been flowing, and they have been flowing like crazy. And so I just love the ebb and flow of creativity. There's something about it, and there's always the hope and the promise that I will flip back, and my ebb will become my flow, and my flow will become my ebb. And that's something so cool that with other crafts and other hobbies, I never really discovered that. Like, I would do stuff for a while, and then I would just like be stuck, and I couldn't figure out how to get my mojo back. But with journaling, I've never not been able to complete that whole ebb and flow cycle. And I love it because I may not be totally into my own art, and then I know that there's the promise of sometime in the future I'll be totally into my own art, or I may not be into journal making, but I know that there's a promise that I will come back to it. And so that's what I'm thankful for, because yesterday my ebb of journal making totally hit the flow, and I was flowing all over the place with journal making, and I got so many journal covers made, and yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to share them with you guys. So that brings me to what I'm working on now. So in this this little process of me doing my own art for a while, I have really gotten into watercolors and water-soluble crayons and pencils. And I've had some for a while, but I've just never really used them because I guess I was kind of scared of them. And so I just decided in this whole process that I've been doing with my own art is that, why am I scared of them? There's no reason to be scared of them. They're just materials, and yeah, I can't mess them up, and they're just sitting there taking up space, and I'm not doing anything with them. So I am using them with reckless abandon, and I am having so much fun. So this is a page that I'm working on right now that I will eventually turn into a journal cover. So I'm working on some watercolor paper. Now, I don't typically go out and buy art paper because, I like to do the whole junk thing, recycled thing. But I have found with watercolor, if you do want it to do what it's supposed to do, you do need to have some sort of a watercolor paper. It just works better. So I gifted myself some watercolor paper. And what I found was that I can play with my watercolors, and then I play with acrylics, and I play with glitter and whatever else. And I can then turn it into a journal cover, because otherwise it would just sit and I wouldn't do anything with it, because I'm not going to hang this art up. I'm not going to sit there and look at it. I only have so much room on my walls, to display it. And wouldn't it be fun to just use my art to make into journal covers? And so I've kind of been doing this. I did it a little bit with the junk journals, the single signature ones. And I'll be honest, guys, I don't know that I'll ever go back to a big journal again, or a hardbound journal again. I love the single signature journals, and I love the soft cover. They are my main squeeze right now. And so I'm making some covers for some more of those junk journals, arty junk journals that are single signatures. And so this is going to end up and be one of those. And how fitting is that? That it's just a piece that I've just played around with and done all kinds of different crazy things, and then turn it into a journal that somebody can actually do the same thing within its pages. So the first step I did on this was I added some watercolor, and this time I spritzed my paper with water first, and then added watercolor. And yeah, I kind of liked it. Wasn't my favorite way to do watercolor. And again, I am not an expert. I am just playing around. There's a lot of really good videos on YouTube that I've been watching for some beginning watercolor techniques. And so I just kind of emulate what I see and kind of figure out how the paint works and the paper works and all that good stuff. So then I just decided I'm going to build upon that. So I'm going to add some acrylic, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And what I used was I have a cheesecloth that, I don't know, left over from some project, and it was on my desk, and it's just kind of been my paint mop. And so that's what I was using to dab the paint with, is that cheesecloth. And I'll eventually, because it's actually kind of a cool color, I'm looking at it right now, I'll eventually put it into some art because it's really cool. It's like green and turquoise and orange. So now I'm just kind of just adding weird things. I love water soluble crayons. I bought a really expensive pack, gosh, probably back in 2012. And I was scared to use them. It's the Karen Dosh, I think is the name. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but they are really cool. They are just water soluble crayons. And so I've just decided that I'm done letting them sit, and I'm going to start using them. Now, I will say, again, I'm not an expert, but I have some cheaper brand of some water soluble crayons, and I do not like them as much. They are not as squishy. I think it is the Stettler brand, and I have them, but they keep more of a hard line, whereas those other ones have more of a squishy, juicy line. And then that green thing you saw me use, I don't know, this is some weird crayon that I found at an art store. It's called Art Crayon, Mixed Media Art Crayon, and it is, trying to see who the manufacturer is, Marabou, and it is super slick and super juicy. And so I got 3 of those. So I really liked using those. So this is just a watercolor pencil. This is black, and a technique that I've picked up is when you just kind of let your pencil go all over the paper. If it's wet, it will cause those blurry black lines, and then if it's dry, it'll be more of a thin black line. So I just really like playing around with that and getting the different dimensions of those lines, those black lines, and then I'm just I get in such a rush that I'm trying to dry my art, but at the same time I'm adding more art, and I don't know why I won't just put one down and just focus on one thing. But so yeah, I'm using one of those crayons and just kind of adding some spaces in, and then I take that piece of art that I had started and just kind of use it to sop up the rest of the paint and the ink, because again, I'm just playing, so I'm okay if it was purple and pink, and then I sopped up some paint that had blue and green in it. I'm totally all right with that, because I'm just going to build upon it and make all kinds of different layers and stuff. So just squishing things around, messing with a lot of finger paint. I love finger paint. I love just using my fingers and kind of pushing the paint around. And I kind of get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling that kitty cat picture the little image that I had put on the right hand side is coming from one of my favorite, I know I say this about every golden book, but one of my favorite golden books called Pussy Willow. And it actually, or Little Pussy, it's Little Pussy Cat, that's what it is. There's two different versions of it. There's Pussy Willow and then there's Little Pussy Cat, but it's the same book and the illustrations are amazing. And anytime I see one of those, I grab it. I think I probably have 10 copies of it. And so I searched through one of them that I've been tearing because it had some missing pages, and I found another image that I kind of like. And so I think I'm going to put that image over the first image, which is okay because this is all about layers. And then I just use a piece of pattern tissue to kind of be the background. And just using regular old Elmer's glue here, guys. Nothing special. I do sometimes whenever I do collage, I do use gel medium, but it's really expensive and I don't know, I'm kind of being lazy and I didn't want to get it out. I just thought I'd use up the rest of the Elmer's glue that I have. And so I want to kind of smush that into the background, and so I add just a little wash of my leftover white paint that I had in a little plastic container that I've been dipping out of. And then I'm going to go ahead and and remember this is going to be a journal cover, so the one on the left is the back of the journal and the one on the right is the front of the journal. So I want to go ahead and marry the two, so I add some pattern tissue over there, and I'm going to do some drops of some glittery, shimmery type of ink. And so I had some of that white paint left over, and I thought, well, I'll just take this little plastic, it was actually the center for a tape dispenser, and I thought, well, I'll just put some circles on there, just some white circles, and so that's kind of cool. And then, okay, I am in love with oil pastels, and I do not use them correctly, but here's where this came from. When I first started teaching, I inherited a classroom, and there was a package of oil pastels. And at this time, I wasn't into art or anything. This was, 25 years ago. And I was like, okay, these look kind of cool. And so I started playing around with them. And whenever I would write poems or little stories and stuff, and on these big poster papers for my kids to read, I would use oil pastels because that's all I had in my classroom to kind of add some color and stuff to them. And what I found out was that whenever I used them, if you smeared them or smudged them, it kind of created a little shadow effect. And so I just became obsessed with that. And of course, the brand was like Craypaws, and it was like the school type of oil pastels. It was for students to use, so it wasn't like artist grade. So I just have always gravitated toward those. So what I'm doing here is just adding some marks with some oil pastels. Now these oil pastels are ones that my daughter got them, I think when she was like in middle school, and came in an art set. So they're really, really cheap, but I've held on to them forever, and I like them. They work for me because I don't do serious art with them. They're just for me playing around, and I really, really love them. I love putting them on the top because they're oil, so they will be my, they're my final layer because stuff's not going to really adhere to it. So they're always the things I put on the top. So I took this over to the sewing machine and I did some stitches around that little kitty cat. And now I'm just adding in some glitter in the lines, just kind of bring a little bit of shimmer to the just like some of the circles and some of the little open spaces. And pretty much I'm done. I really like how this turned out. It totally was not at all what I started. I mean, I had no idea what this was going to look like when I started. But that's kind of the fun of doing stuff like this is that you don't know where it's going to take you. You have no idea what it's going to look like. You just kind of go until you're like, oh yeah, I think I'm done. So the final thing I'm doing is just putting some splashes of some glimmer mist on there, and yeah, I'm going to let it dry, and then I will turn it into a journal cover. So guys, I hope you are healthy. I hope you're happy. I hope you do something creative today. By the way, I just wanted to tell you, if you haven't checked out my shop lately, I am running a big sale. Everything is, of course, free shipping. But I've also got everything in my shop 15 to 20% off. So if you are looking for some journal goodies to add as you do some creating over this holiday break, be sure to check out my shop and see what I've got in there. Also, I will be having some journals that I will put in my shop probably in the next week or so, and I will definitely do a video on that. All right, kiddos, take care. Have a great rest of the day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.